The Kansas State Wildcats come in at number 27 in our 2026 power ratings. And this team might be one of the biggest wild cards in the Big 12 this year. So, starting with the identity, you got Colin Klein stepping in as a first-time head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M the last 2 seasons, and, of course, was the OC at Kansas State under the now-retired Chris Kliemann before that. That's a huge storyline right there, just right out of the gate, right? Last year's team went 6-6. I think the record is a little misleading. They lost the opener in Ireland to Iowa State. It was a heartbreaker, 24-21. Started 2-4 with some close losses to Army, etc. And here's the big one. They went 1-5 in one-score games last year. I mean, that is just brutal. That tells you this team was right there. They just couldn't close, right? Especially early. Now, the only double-digit loss that they had on the season was to Texas Tech. Should tell you something. Style-wise, quarterback-driven offense with some legit skill talent, but there is uncertainty just all over this roster, especially with the new staff taking over, right? Quick identity, it's a high-upside, quarterback-led team that was better than its record last year, but now has to prove it can put it all together under a brand-new head coach. Now, let's talk about the roster, because there's a mix of encouraging pieces and what I would call real concerns. Offensively, it starts with quarterback Avery Johnson, fourth-year guy, dual threat, centerpiece of everything that they do. But he hasn't lived up to expectations, even though the most hype that he had was 3 years ago when Colin Klein, who is the new head coach, was last his offensive coordinator. You've also got a pretty deep running back room. Guys like Joe Jackson and a few portal additions give you some options there. Tight end could be sneaky good, too. You got Lincoln Cure and Garrett Oakley there. But the issue, as it has been for most of the teams that we've previewed thus far, is the offensive line. You lost 4 out of 5 starters, 75th in returning snaps there. That could certainly be a problem. But you just kind of expect the Kansas State team to have a good offensive line, don't you? I mean, I feel like I do. Although Chris Kliemann isn't there anymore, so I don't necessarily know if it'll be the same thing or not. Defensively, it's kind of the same story. Secondary might be the best unit, especially with some of the transfers coming in. Front seven's a little shaky. Lost key contributors on the defensive line and the linebacker, and at linebacker. Portal-wise, you added depth, especially at running back and edge, but you lost some real pieces. Dylan Edwards at running back was interesting. I know he wasn't the bell cow last year, but, I mean, the kid was fast, and then you also lost a couple of defensive starters. I say a couple. You lost several defensive starters, 2 of them to Indiana. For roster impact, you've got star power at quarterback and depth at running back. The overall roster feels unstable, especially in the trenches, but that might be okay in the Big 12. Now, as far as strengths, I've already mentioned the quarterback, Avery Johnson. He is the engine of the offense. If he plays at a high level, the offense can certainly be dangerous. Strength number 2 is the running back room. I brought that up. There's depth there, multiple options, different kinds of guys, and that's going to certainly take pressure off of the quarterback. And then number 3, the tight end potential. I think that group could become, what's the best way to put it? A real mismatch if it develops. As for why they can win this season, if the ground game is rolling, Johnson's making plays with his legs and enough through the air, they can control games. They can outscore people in this league, especially with the schedule that they got. As far as the weakness, that's where the volatility comes in. Quarterback consistency. Now, as good as Johnson can be, and he's got all the tools in the world, there have been some regression concerns. You need him to be steady, and I think it's certainly a good thing that Klein is coming back into the fold here with him. Second, you've got uncertainty at wide receiver and even in parts of the secondary. Right? There's just not a ton of proven production there. Third, the overall roster volatility with a new coaching staff. New head coach, new coordinators, new systems. It's a lot of change all at once. What could derail this is if Johnson is not consistent and the new pieces, especially on the line, don't gel. I mean, this thing could get shaky in a hurry. The schedule sets up really nice, right? As you can see on the screen, number 15 out of 16 as far as toughest strength of schedule. number 62 nationally. Only one road game before late October. That would be at Cincinnati. You avoid some of the tougher teams in the conference. There's no Texas Tech. There's no BYU. There's no Utah on the schedule. That's certainly a good thing. It's the second easiest schedule in the Big 12. This is a huge advantage. Early season matters. Like, you can't slip up, especially the first 3 weeks. You're going to be double-digit favorites in all those. You should be able to roll through that. You play at Cincinnati. You get a bye week, and then you get Houston at home and Kansas at home. I mean, you're looking at potentially 6-0, if not 5-1 there. Houston, I think, is going to be a tough one. I am shocked at my Houston rating. Everybody is so high on them, and my numbers don't like them. But we'll talk about that at some other point. The Cincinnati game is a tricky spot, right? Houston at home in Week 6, you got to be able to handle that one. Later, you play at TCU, at Iowa State. Those are going to be your defining games this season. This is a schedule that gives you a runway. And if you take care of business early, you can build momentum. You can be in the race late. As far as projections, ceiling is 10-2, I think. Yeah, 10-2. I mean, games, like your away games, you're probably going to lose at least 2 of those with this roster. But at 10-2, you're probably playing for a Big 12 title if the quarterback clicks and the new staff gels, right? Floor for this team, probably 6-6 again if the inconsistency shows up, the roster gaps get exposed, etc. I think the most likely here is 9-3. The win total is all the way up at 8.5 now. It's juiced at the over. I like the over still. I kind of lean that direction. It's not one of my favorite bets. I think it's just too favorable. I think the quarterback upside is real. I think you're going to see a real, not a renaissance per se, but the best of Avery Johnson came out with Colin Klein. I think Klein is really good at showcasing strengths in quarterbacks. I think he'll do the same thing here. As far as the summary, this feels like a contender in the Big 12, mainly because of the schedule, but one that could still trip itself up. I mean, there's a lot of spots where they could trip themselves up if they're not careful. If the roster doesn't gel, if the staff doesn't gel, and all that. To close it out, what's a good one-line identity? It's a quarterback-dependent team with real Big 12 upside, right? But they got just enough volatility to keep you from fully trusting them every single week. All right, of course, you guys know, subscribe to the channel, like the video for me, share it out, tell your friends, all that good stuff. Jump in the comments and tell me what you think about this season's version of the Kansas State Wildcats.